Welcome to Childcare Conversations with Kate and Carrie.
Hey guys, so today we're going to talk a little bit about social and emotional learning with somebody who I consider kind of an expert and, of course, a friend. And every time we have a conversation with Sharon, I kind of come away going, we should have recorded that. so, um, so Kate and I have known Sharon Burnett for a while. I was trying to figure out the first time we had a long conversation, and Kate, we think it was at a TASPIC session a couple of years ago in San Antonio. But regardless, this lady knows about curriculum, knows about the process of evaluating which types of curriculum are the right ones for your program and how to combine them if you have some stuff that you do really well in-house and you just need a little bit of support. She has ideas on that, all kinds of great stuff. So, Sharon, come on in and tell everybody a little bit about your entry into the field and the things that you're super passionate about.
The
Well,
early childhood
Carrie and
education
Kate,
field.
yeah, it's just always so much fun. Every time I have a conversation with you two, I'm learning. And that, I think, is what has kept us on this track and in this career field for so long, because it is always a learning process. My field and my time in this industry started, I guess, a long, 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 long time ago. So it could be that I'm just the oldest person in the industry, and that may be how we've all connected. But started out as a kindergarten teacher 40, 45 years ago. And at that time, most of you, and certainly all of you that are listening, probably were so young that you may have thought that resources existed for earliest learners back then, but earliest resources did not. So if you wanted to use a game or a book or a song for your young children at that time, you were probably thrown into a eighth grade language arts professional development day, and you were probably coloring and making that game in the back of the room. And that's what we did as teachers, just to have tangible items that our children could learn with, that were developmentally appropriate for them. Not that we were just stuck into a language arts enrichment program, but that we were looking at what would build skills so that our children could become successful readers. And, now when we look at the state of the union of our world, we have kindergarten teachers, first and second grade teachers that are busy, busy, busy in the area of phonics and busy, busy into blending and segmenting. But there's a lot of specialty that has to occur, building language skills and vocabulary skills long before they enter that kindergarten readiness period of time. So that is where my career pretty much started. I worked with a fabulous group of friends that were also my besties and my educator friends, and we would stay late at night and make a little booklet or make a little game or put a little song to a tune so that it would be memorable and it would be repetitious and it would house a lot of the skill sets, whether it was learning their colors, numbers, shapes, alphabet letters, whether they were trying to learn nursery rhymes. And so we decided that all of those things needed to be taught through fun and through song so that the children could be up and down and playing and have that musical edge while they were learning skills. So we made a little concept called Sing and Read, and we made a big book for those skill concepts that I mentioned. And we sold those and people loved them. And as time went on, we became a little company. And unknowing that we were really becoming a business, we all had to stop teaching and jump into the world of sales to our brick and mortar and catalog companies, because that's how we did sales back in that day. We bought a little building. We made an opportunity for us to buy presses and learn how to print those books. And we printed the
Okay.
first ones in black and white. And some of you teachers may remember you probably had to color the RED book or the Apple Annie. And so, with being involved with creating those products, teachers really loved to be sure that they were going to use them. If they spent time making it and they knew an outcome of success that it could bring to that child, then they were fine with investing that time. So we continued that. It did turn into a business. We were very blessed, and it was Frog Street. And we started that company. And as it grew, about 16 years into that process, we had an opportunity to gain another partner, a majority partner. And he said, "What do we do next?" So we, at that point, said, "Let's enter the adoption for pre K." And so we wanted to create an entire comprehensive program that really gave the basis of all the guidelines for pre kindergarten children. So
Okay.
that was our first endeavor, and that became a very blessed success for us. And so the company continued on. We have done 2 or 3 different state adoptions now with infant, toddler, threes, and pre-K, but lo and behold, a few years ago, the company sold totally out, and they have a lot of great people that still work in that company, and then they have new people that have come in to take it a step further. So we retired. Those of us that had been in the business for so long retired, and then people started to laugh and said, "Oh, Lord, Sharon, what are you gonna do? You have done this all of your life." So I said, "Well,
You don't look
yeah."
very retired, Sharon.
Yeah. Why do we keep seeing you at conferences if you're retired? I think you might have
Exactly.
failed. You may have
Yes, so
failed.
I said, "Well, I really do love helping children learn." And now it seems like, as years have gone on, we do have many of those concept skills that are now really needed in pre-K before they get to kindergarten. So I bought back a proprietary product line that was very good to us called Sing and Read. And we have taken it on and made some significant changes to fit today's teachers. We have aligned it to the earliest principles of science of reading. So, talk about listening to, all these blogs and podcasts and relearning a lot of the research. I just kept hearing things about kindergarten and first grade and second grade and phonics and segmenting and blending. And it became pretty clear that there weren't as many things that were still building on those foundations so that children would be ready for those science of reading strategies in the kindergarten, first, and second grade. So we did our research and aligned a program that we now call Foundations. And Foundations can be used as an emergent literacy program along with what comprehensive program may already be in use. We do our best to be sure that we use tangible items along with the music that goes with the books. So those children are building language and building vocabulary. They're getting to the point of written expression, being able to draw a picture of what their thought is. They're also extensively building those alphabet knowledge skills. But who can identify letters of the alphabet without learning about some of the shapes? So we have a shapes knowledge of slant lines, curved lines, round lines, and all of the little books and characters tie in to make learning fun for the children. And it does have just a real sweet little social twist to it because there's an opportunity for everybody to be a good friend or to help a friend or hold hands with me or let me give you a hand. So there are things underlying that make it a sweet kindness concept. But the actual basis of it is for the importance of science of reading for our youngest children, whether it starts with receptive language as those infant toddlers, or it begins as they produce words and reiterate sounds. And all of us know that talking and even singing to some point is a skill that you can just acquire, but reading is not.
Sharon, you've
And we
not heard Carrie and I sing, have you?
I mean, we can sing for preschoolers. We can't sing for adults because adults
There's a big
care more
secret
if
to
you
that,
hit the right
girls.
note.
The secret to that is you close your door and you let the children sing along, and then that just
That's
kind of
right.
covers us up, right?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
exactly, and that's
But
the fun of it.
yeah, and part of what I really like about your curriculum is that it does include those social emotional parts of it as well and makes it doesn't feel as much we're going to stop what you're doing and go do this. It makes it flow more easily into the day because it's
Thanks.
not like some of those, we're going to call them workbook curriculums,
Yeah.
um, where the kid has to stop what they're doing, shift gears completely so that they can come over and get their pen or their dry erase marker and,
You are right. You are right, and I love, learning at that pace as well because the children are just considering it play. It's fun. The characters have lots of humor and personality, so there's lots of laughs and giggles. And so if a child knows that Apple Annie is a form of the representation of that phonological sound, A, then they can kind of begin to put that together. They may not recognize that lowercase a and be able to identify it on a flashcard, but they soon begin to understand, oh, that's the sound that I'm hearing in Apple Annie's story song.
yep. And isn't there a Hallie one? Isn't there a Hallie
Oh,
one?
yes, yes, Hallie Hart, and, we introduced that one back in again, it's coming up soon with Valentine's Day. So there are a lot of themes that can be used with holidays and fun times throughout your day. Many people use the songs only during greeting time, circle time, transition times, just so they are filling those children with oral language skills that are so important. We have a lot of specials children and they just need some help in speaking orally. And then we have a lot of children that may be using a different home language and it needs to be slow and repetitious, but through song, they catch on to that very, very easily. And then we have now built guides that are very simple in instruction, but they certainly do give you more than just the song to do.
Okay.
So you can take that right into your written expression, take it right into your read alouds. And, Kate, there's a lot of these curriculums now that only have two structured read alouds. And we're going to read aloud all day long, but this would give you
Absolutely.
that third read aloud time that would be very, very intentional, yet very playful for your children to get that in.
Absolutely. So here's my question, Sharon. So we've got directors and even owners of programs listening, and they're probably already, a lot of programs have a curriculum already. Talk to me about how or why this makes a good supplement to anything that already exists. How would they incorporate that? Like if you, because again, I'm just thinking that we've got programs that are like, I have my day and my day is set and we did it in house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, when we come in for training, that's one of the first things that we address. Don't worry. You don't have to throw out your lesson plans. You're not going to have to create something all new. This is just going to very softly emerge into what you're doing, like Carrie mentioned earlier. So, one of the places that we like to say you'd want to look at it certainly is in your period of time during the day when you are having read aloud, or you are having poems, or you are trying to build confidence with speakers. It also helps during that period of time during the day when it may not be written into your comprehensive lesson plan, but you certainly do have the goal of wanting to strengthen that attention span. We want them to gain more time that they can have attention given to us for the later instruction. So it builds those skills. It builds confidence for those that may not yet be ready to speak uh, or have a conversation with you back and forth, but they may be ready to just start to sing the song. I had a teacher called me the other day and she was giggling and she said, "We've had a little nonverbal, just doesn't want to converse much, but through testing, we don't think there's a problem, but we just want to encourage this one to join in the circle time, join in on literacy centers and have some conversations with peers and answer questions with teachers." She said, "I was in monitoring and she came and sat in my lap and she said, I was just thrilled. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have this child in my lap the whole time." But when the teacher was introducing at Read Aloud the song and character letter G for Gus the goat. And when the teacher said, "Let's take a picture walk, what do you think this is going to be about?" And she was starting her routine to introduce the book. She said the little girl jumped out of her lap, ran to the circle, and said, "I can be here because I know Gus the goat." So she had made a friend and she had gained some confidence. And that was one of the characters and songs that drew her in. So you just look for those little special moments everywhere. And with the singing, there happens to be a lot of it. If you're also doing a read aloud, if you're also using or looking for things that go along with the literacy centers. Had someone the other day who was using Kathy Cook's cookbook. She turned the home center into a cooking station. So they made hats with the big coffee filters and the
Mhm.
little tagboard bands. So before she even knew it, they had their pots and their pans and they were singing Kathy Cook. So it's relating to them in a really spontaneous way, but also that instruction to pull them back together and talk about let's listen for the sound that we hear in Kathy Cook's letter so that we're certainly addressing those phonological awareness needs. And then we also encourage people with other curriculums to say, okay, let's just look at the themes that you're using. What would be a good time? What are some of the colors that you might want to pull together during the fall? Bring in red and orange and brown and yellow and bring those into play. Somebody the other day said, well, we use that. We have a color day or a color week every so often. And even the secretaries find a way to make that whole atmosphere of the campus. What are we going to be studying today? Are we going to be studying Gus the Goat this week? And they all, because they're singing those songs going down the hall and during transitions, they know what's happening. Most of the time with your threes and fours, I say it's just a fabulous time to whatever letters you're introducing. And now, all of our research says that we certainly need to be introducing more than one letter. So using that multiple letter approach, if your comprehensive curriculum is really focusing in on letter D and letter L, then why don't you bring Daisy Doll and Larry Line and introduce those songs and books and go through to find the capital and lower cases? And hey, let's talk about how are these letters the same and how are they different? They have curve lines, and we learned about curve lines because we've already been in our shape book, Cindy Circle. We learned about straight lines because and it just goes on and on and on. So when you said it kind of all fits together very well with some intentional instruction in what we call the big five, which is again, vocabulary, comprehension, written expression, phonological awareness, and alphabet knowledge. If we are inclusive of those big five while we're introducing these concepts, then in our world, we feel like it fits into what you're already doing, but just gives you a extra little magic feather.
Because again, one of those changes that's happened culturally is that, you know, I grew up and I knew all kinds of weird songs and I knew all kinds of nursery rhymes and stuff like that. And the kids today aren't getting that as much. Not everybody knows about Hickory Dickory Dock. And so
You
it's
are
the
right.
introducing the rhythmic language helps with those kids who are low expressive language users or who are second language, uh, you know, English language learners or kids who need more of that other types of exposure to language in order to be where we would expect them to be. Because there are people who sing before they speak. And if you're never singing in your classroom because you're worried about your voice, then we have an issue. But if you're not singing, maybe at least you can do stuff in that kind of chanting rhythm that a lot of the songs that you have can be done in the chanting rhythm instead of sung if somebody's feeling particularly shy about their voice. So
Okay,
I
Can you
so
think
bring up
Carrie,
that helps.
all right, hang on, Sharon. So, Carrie, you've got an owner on today's podcast, or at least a director that is still not putting the connections on why they need and their viewpoint might be another curriculum.
So here's
What would you tell them? And then we're going to ask Sharon that same question.
okay. So one of the things I'm going to say is this is one of those things that it's very easy to point to parents and to new teachers. So new teachers a lot of times want to know, they want to have evidence that I'm a teacher, right? The teachers who've been doing it for 5, 10 years, they know they're a teacher. But a lot of times somebody who is newly promoted into that lead teacher position is like, well, I don't know that I'm a real teacher, but by having a curriculum that they can point to that this is helping, it is science backed and it is helping children with concepts they know their child is going to need later, it is much easier to, for no other way to say this, but it's easier to sell to the parents and to those newer teachers that look, this is the end goal than say creative curriculum or a Montessori curriculum or a lot of I love play-based. I'm a play-based person, but it is really hard for some parents to take on board the play-based if it is standalone as just a play-based. And so adding this little piece in makes it much easier to show parents and show those new teachers this is part of how we are helping the kids be prepared for when they go to big kids school. So that's part of my thought process. Also, it's not as expensive as buying one of the whole everythings. Uh,
So that was actually the piece I was looking for, Carrie. And part of that was we've heard folks and we know of programs and we've all met that program that does it themselves because they look at curriculum as an expense because they haven't figured out how to use curriculum as a marketing tool. And we also know that there are folks who have a curriculum that may not match their educational philosophy. And I feel that this curriculum, and in case you were wondering, we will have all of these details in the show notes. So if you are looking, it's celebratesel.com. And okay, I'm like going, I think it's a .com. And what's nice is it does give even that new teacher a place that they can start and hang their hat on. Even if you are having the program as a whole create their own, or you have resource materials and there's, general guidance, but yet there's not here, open the book, it's canned, right? And there's an opportunity for the teachers to put some of their own personality in it. But like Carrie said, if you're a new teacher, you may not know what that looks like. So hopefully, we've answered some questions. We know you're going to have additional questions. So it's also a great first day. So if you are orienting new teachers, this is a great thing that you can give a brand new teacher on day 1 or day 2, and they can feel like they were successful versus some of the stuff we do in orientation for teachers. We often forget that joy. And so Carrie often tries to remind people to include Play-Doh, story time, other kinds of fun activities that first 2 weeks a new teacher starts. So go to celebratesel.com. Click on the Message Us tab on the show notes. We'd love to forward any questions over to Sharon. And with that, Carrie, how do they stay connected to us?
well, the best way, there's 2 really good ways. One, subscribe or follow this show, whatever it's called on your podcast player of choice or YouTube. And if you want even more, go on to childcareconversations.com and subscribe to our newsletter. And you get some extra freebies in there if you're on our newsletter. And that way you get to hear from us twice a week in usually less than 30 minutes. just enough for your drive to or from work. And hopefully, we make running your program more joyful and much less overwhelming. So we'll talk to you in a few days. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Sharon. And we will see you at a conference pretty soon, I'm sure.
The rest of y'all will see you in a couple of days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.